Hello, good morning. It is not morning, it is 12:30. Let's take a second just to land. I've been so excited to share this observation, this perspective with you today. Welcome, gather around by the fire. I actually meant to do this by the fire, but my husband was watching something. So, welcome to our fireside chat for women who are in their 40s and 50s or plus. I'm going to start by saying something. I've seen this before many times. And actually, I keep seeing it over and over and over again. Women that are capable, highly successful, strong, and they are walking around feeling like something's missing, that they're doing something wrong, and it feels like a dirty little secret. And today, what I'm bringing to the table is not a strategy, it's not advice, it's perspective. It's a new or different way of perceiving or looking at where you may find yourself in this stage of life. And I'm so serious because this is, we can have fun with it. It's just like that. I've got a lot of charge. I've got a lot of emotion. This conversation is for women who have a deep sense that they have outgrown a certain way of doing things, of hustling, of grinding, but you may not know what the next step is. This conversation is for you if you've built your life. When we are in our 40s and 50s, especially in our 50s, the women that I work with are generally mid 40s, but very mature, very self-aware, or 50s, late 50s, where you've built your life, you may or may not have children, but that phase is done and your children are either grown or you don't have children. You've built your career and you may be on a second career path. You have your home, you know about yourself already. And this stage for you, here comes the first drop. This stage for you is not about transformation or reinvention. This stage for you is about integration. I just got goosebumps. You are already so wise. I was just having a conversation with someone today, a peer coach friend. Hey, Leslie, if you're watching. And I was sharing with her, she's 63 and also a mentor and coach. And I said, you know what? if you're 30 something and listening to this, you're not going to like this, but that's okay because my message is really for women in their 40s and 50s. So if you're 30 something and you're listening to this, you're not going to like it. But I told my friend Leslie, I said, women in their 30s, they're still adulting. They're still learning how to be adults. Now, if you would have told me this at 30, I would have been pissed. If you would have told me this at 35, I would have been pissed. At 51, I can tell you that I am done learning how to be an adult and that we are officially entering a new phase. And that phase is the phase, an era of wisdom. So at this point, we're not getting out of our 20s, trying to see what am I going to do with my life? How am I going to build? And you're going from teen 20s to 30s, trying to build your life. When you're already in your 40s, if you're mature 40s, which is the women that I attract, or in your 50s, even going into your 60s, you already have the wisdom. There's more to learn, absolutely. But it's more a question of integration. What do you do with all this past, all these lessons in order to move into the next era of your life? We're talking about tweaking. We're talking about refinement. We are not talking about, I hear this all the time, burn down your life. I just led a retreat. I didn't give for 5 incredible women, powerful women, capable women. They had all the answers within themselves. I was just a guide. So if you're in your 40s and 50s, or if by chance you're in your 30s and you can relate to this, where you've built your life, you have the kids or have decided to have no children, I attract a lot of dog moms, and on paper, you look like you're thriving. And in every way, on paper, you are thriving. And yet something's missing, something is feeling unfulfilling. This is for you. And hello, Georgina. Recently, Alex Hermosi and Tony Robbins had a podcast interview, which actually it wasn't an interview at all. It turned into a coaching session between Tony Robbins, he was doing the coaching, and Alex Hermosi. Now, Alex Hormozy, I don't particularly follow him for many reasons. He's brilliant, but this is not about shaming him. This is to point out a pattern that I see in women. He and Tony had a conversation where he told Tony, he said, basically, he had a mantra that said FUCK happiness. Like, I'm going to say screw happiness because I don't want my video to be taken off for cursing. But basically, he said when he was building success, he had this fire inside him to prove other people wrong. So it was the desire to prove other people wrong that motivated him, that drove him. And because he couldn't fit in and he felt rejected by whomever, he came up with a mantra that said, FUCK happiness. And that mantra, we think affirmations don't work, but they absolutely do. That mantra allowed him to have, I just got chills again, massive success. I don't know if he's a billionaire. Looked it up and it said that he has a net worth of over, $300 million. So by having the mantra, fuck happiness, I'm just going to say it, he was able to put his blinders on and go straight forward to success. And it worked until it didn't. I was driving when I was listening to the interview. I didn't need to see his facial expressions. I could feel his heart, and his heart dimmed, and his sadness. And when I looked at the video later, when I wasn't driving, I rewatched it. You could see there was so much sadness, so much heaviness in him. There was sadness, heaviness, flatness to him. And he said, from the moment that I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, I'm working. And I want to have more fun and I want to feel good, but he's like, honestly, I don't know how to do it. And he goes, and the reason that I work so much, if you're just joining, we're talking about the interview between Alex Hermosi and Tony Robbins. The reason that I work so much is because I don't know what else to do. I'm not sharing this story to shame him. It takes tremendous courage to post this on YouTube for his whole audience to see. I'm not sharing this because his story is unique. I'm sharing this because his story is not unique, because this is a pattern that I see every single day with women who have built the life, achieved success, however you define success. I'm telling you, he made 300 or whatever $1 million. Maybe you've made $1 million. Maybe you've made 5 million. Maybe you've made 600,000. It doesn't matter. It's how do you define success? If you consider yourself and are considered accomplished, your life looks good on paper, but no one would be able to tell, but you can, that your light feels dimmed, that you're looking good on paper, but you're not feeling good on the inside. You may have developed all these sorts of pains and aches. Very possibly, you may have developed autoimmune disorders. You may be feeling a lack of energy, life force. You have a great career. You may even love what you do, but you're finding yourself more tired, numb, unable, like Alex, to truly feel. He gave this example of, he's like, oh, charity. I'm going to give away $2 million to charity. He wrote the check, he gave the $2 million, and he was like, okay, I wrote the check, and that didn't feel so good. And now I'm $2, $2 million poorer. The and we're going to get to what the pattern is and what the problem, and there's also a solution is. And that is that the problem is that if you're feeling flat, unmotivated, lack of energy, pains, aches, sadness, even though your life looks amazing on paper and you're grateful for everything that you have, but you're looking outside of yourself. Most women, I would dare say, interpret this moment, this phase that you're in, you interpret this incorrectly. I'm 51. I had a hysterectomy when I was 43, so I know all about hormones. And I'm surrounded by women in their 40s, 50s, 60s. I'm also in a world with women in their 30s who are saying that they're old. You're just a baby. You're thinking that it's your hormones. You're thinking, I'm just getting old. You're not. Someone the other day, I saw that they corrected me and they're like, you are wrong. If you're in your 50s, you only have 2 or 3 decades left because the rest you're going to be like sick and die, basically. And that's not true. You can be 80 years old and 90 years old and be healthy and vibrant. And you can die of old age if you are blessed, being healthy. It's just that your time on this earth has expired. So just because you're getting older doesn't mean that you should feel flat, that you should feel sad, that you should feel tired, that you should be sick. Just because that's what's normalized in our society doesn't mean that it has to be that way. Everything that we need to do to have an incredible life is actually counterculture, which we'll get to. So you think it's your hormones, you think that you're getting old, you think that you just need more rest. You're feeling like you should be grateful. You're thinking, what the F is wrong with me? And these are some of the things that you may be trying. You may actually need to quote unquote fix your hormones and take care of your hormones, right? Because it's the age that we are in. But you may be trying to fix your hormones, or like me in the past, you may be seeing all these functional medicine experts, and my husband's a functional medicine expert. I don't have a problem with functional medicine, but I was using functional medicine to get me to feel alive and vibrant again. I was outsourcing my aliveness, my joy. Maybe you're trying journaling. Maybe you're changing up your diet. Maybe you are seeing a therapist. Nothing wrong with changing your diet. Nothing wrong with seeing a therapist. But all of that is outsourcing. I'm going to tell you that there are 3 phases in what I'm seeing with what I described with Alex, of which you may be experiencing: building success, building the life that you thought that you wanted, and then feeling flat, empty, like your light has dimmed. Phase 1, the hustle works. I worked my freaking ass off in my 20s and 30s. I have a PhD. I made millions of dollars in my business. The hustle worked. My husband and I laugh about it all the time. Like he had three, four jobs. He would go from, working three, four jobs, take a shower, go straight to school. Me, I was getting my PhD. I was partying till 6 in the morning and I was teaching at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then I had a whole day. In my 20s, my body was able to do that. What about you? The hustle, did the hustle get you to the place where you have built your life? And that, again, that life looks good on paper. So, phase one, the hustle works. You push, you override, you have no idea what it actually means to listen to your body. You perform, and that creates real success. I have goosebumps because that's what Alex did. I have notes. Yes, I do have notes, and they're disorganized. Hold on. Phase two, the success continues and you're still overriding your body. What does overriding your body mean? It means you don't take breaks when you feel tired. It means you ignore the signals that your body is giving you because you may not even know how to read them. I remember I was following Layla Hermosi, who is Alex's wife, years ago, and I have a lot of respect for her. Okay, so this is again not a criticism, but she was saying how she has a lot of anxiety. And she's like, oh, but that's normal. Everyone in business has a lot of anxiety, right? Like I'm building, I have $500 million, whatever the number was, business, like it's totally normal to be anxious. No, it's not. So she, like you, like me, again, forget about that, someone's making $500 million. It doesn't matter. If you consider yourself a driven person, a successful person on paper, and you're operating from anxiety, like, and you think that this is normal, it's not normal. This is your body screaming to you, something has to change. And you're experiencing the aches and pains. And you're starting to feel that there's a little crack in the system, but you don't know quite what it is. And you know what? You're still super focused on your goal. You're still building. You're still going. You're still so freaking excited, but less so. Less so. No, so no, I take that back. Not so freaking excited anymore. It's beginning, here we go. It's beginning to feel less exciting. It's beginning to feel heavier. When I first started in my 30s, so I was 33, when I first started in my one of my businesses, I was so freaking excited. I just wanted to work all the time. I just wanted to do it all. And I just went all in and I worked all hours and I had all kinds of calls and I had no boundaries with myself about my time and other people. And it was so much fun. Phase one. Phase two, my joy started to become more muted, but I kept going. Remember what Alex said? I just didn't know what else I don't know what else to do with my time. My joy started to become more muted, and I started going to see functional medicine experts. And then around that time, I met my husband, who's a functional medicine expert, and I would use functional medicine to get my body to feel good. But once again, this was an inner problem. We're getting to it, spinning all over the place. It was a problem with the pattern that I was living. It wasn't a functional medicine problem. It wasn't a mindset problem because you're thinking, I just got, I have a mindset problem or like, come on, Barbie, or whatever your name is, right? Fill in the blank with your name. What are the things that you tell yourself of why you're feeling like your light is dimmed? Why you're not enjoying the work that you're doing? Why you feel tired and depleted? Why you feel numb? What are the things that you're telling yourself around that? Phase three, phase three is when your body starts talking, but it does so with a freaking brick. Your body starts hurting. Maybe now you have brain fog, or you feel flat, really flat, and you're just going through the motions. And there, from my perspective, from what I've observed, there are, and this is not to categorize women, we're so complex and we're so diverse. So, but for the sake of this conversation, there are two type of women in their 40s and 50s, where you're like, okay, well, I'm old. This is the way it is. It's all down here. And I'm just gonna like resign myself to life being this way. This conversation, if that's you and you're not willing to change that, you're not looking to change that, this conversation is, I'm not for you, and this conversation is probably not for you. But if you're in your 40s and 50s, and again, if you could be in your 30s and be feeling this already, there's a different option. There's a different way. What is the problem then? What do you think the problem is? And I'm both on Instagram and Facebook. It's a question of living from outdated survival patterns. If we go back to the example of Alex Hormozy, when he was beginning to build his business, he said he developed a mantra, fuck happiness. That allowed him to concentrate. What was your mantra? For me, it was, if it is to be, it's up to me. So I was the one that had to make things happen. Myself, me, myself, and I. That's very lonely. And if it is to be, once again, I got goosebumps. If it is to be, it's up to me. Or Alex Hormozy's fuck happiness. That allowed him to achieve the success. That was a pattern. And Tony Robbins said it in the interview. He did say, my friend, you have to rewire your brain and, choose something more meaningful, da, da, da. Excellent, great. But I'm focusing differently and I want to stay here on the pattern. Everything that we are, the way that we show up in the world, even the way that we move in the world, the way that we, and when I say the way that we move in the world, I literally mean the way that we move, the way that we walk, the way that we hold up our head. One example that I use with my clients was, how do you brush your teeth? So let me ask you, how do you brush your teeth? This is perfect. Do you, and I don't mean, okay, so you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, whether you go to the bathroom first, doesn't matter. A pattern that I noticed about myself before was that I would brush my teeth and I'd be like opening the cabinets, cleaning the cabinets, doing the dishes and brushing my teeth. That's a pattern. That's a rush pattern. That's a I don't know how to slow down pattern. That's a I can't waste time pattern. We say in this house, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. How do you brush your teeth? In order for you to get to this place of quote unquote success, for you to build the life that you built, there were certain patterns that were wired inside of you that served you well. So I'm going to make it no matter what, whether you're supported or not. I'm going to be successful even if I'm not happy. That is a survival pattern. And here you are in your 40s and 50s, and you've outgrown the pattern. The wonderful thing is that the brain has neuroplasticity. We can change. Our nervous system, and I won't get into teaching mode, but our nervous system, which includes our brain, your spinal cord, and the nerves, remembers. So we're acting from autopilot. We're just acting out old patterns. And this is why Alex Hermosi is like, I don't know what else to do. I don't know how not to work. And what is required is a rewiring of patterns through micro actions and repeated new behaviors. So we can have this conversation. You can gain insight from this conversation. But this conversation alone might be like, oh, shoot, I recognize myself in this. But that's actually not enough. Because to rewire your nervous system, you actually have to work with your nervous system and take micro actions in order to refine yourself. Because remember, we're not becoming someone new. We don't need to throw the baby out with the water. You don't need to, as we say, or as people say, destroy your whole life so that you can change certain patterns. Remember that I told you that, and I didn't tell you this part, that I don't have my notebook here, but I kept getting sick. So not only was my light dimmed, not only did I feel like I was holding back, not only did I lose energy and felt like it was a spiritual crisis, and success started feeling really freaking flat and nothing was exciting. My body started screaming. This happens for many women. This is a pattern. My body started screaming and I had terrible vertigo and chronic fatigue. And there came a point where the functional medicine stuff and everything that I was trying to do didn't work. I had to do two things. I had to learn how to regulate my nervous system and create a nervous system that was very adaptable and how to process stress. But I also had to rewire my identity. Fuck happiness. doesn't rewire your identity. Something else is needed. So yes, okay, great. A new mantra. I'm going to chase butterflies and not feel like I'm being chased by a bear. Okay, that's a beautiful mantra, as one of my clients had. But that alone, they're just words. Then what is needed is a rewiring of who you're going to become next. It's about the next iteration of you. This is totally normal. This, wherever you find yourself right now, in your 40s and 50s or above, whatever patterns got you to where you are, this is life. We're supposed to outgrow things. When I was in the shower today, I thought of the expression, like, you've made your bed, now you have to lie in it. Actually, no, you don't. You get to change the sheets. This period that you're in, this era that you're in, this is supposed to happen because we are learning. We're at the point that we are learning from the past so that we can step into our wisdom. Don't buy the freaking hype that that we're old and that life is for young people. As I'm recording this, we're having a snow, across the United States, we're having snowstorms. And I went to school in Buffalo, New York, where it snowed like 30, 40 inches every time, right? Or not every time, but very often. And I was 18, 19 years old. And you know what we'd do during the storms? We'd get in a car and drive in the storm because it was fun. And we just thought it was so much fun. And I thought of that today and I was like, okay, the innocence of that is very charming. And also, how foolish that we could have, in our youth and in our foolishness, hurt ourselves or hurt someone else because we thought the storm was fun, driving in the snow in the storm. That's foolishness that comes from youth. And now you have, at this age, all this wisdom that needs to be integrated. And you get to feel alive, energetic, vibrant, and you get to step into the next few decades of your life unfreaking leashed, unleashed and powerful with a new sense of purpose. Your life is just beginning. I'm so glad I'm not 30 something anymore. That was fun. 40 something, that was fun. I love being 51. I love the wisdom that comes with it. I love the boundaries I've developed. There are some things that I'm not available for anymore. You get to have an incredible, vibrant, beautiful life and to update the patterns that got you here. You cannot have an incredible life with the same mantras, the same patterns, the same self-abandonment, the same overriding. If you got to success by not listening to your body, by not getting sleep, by overriding, by always feeling like you're buzzing, by busting your ass, by grinding, by having loosey-goosey boundaries and always being available to others, to work, to whatever, by always saying yes, or not always, but many times saying yes when you don't want to, including in your intimate relationships, you know what I mean? It doesn't actually get better, it gets worse. So we'll take Alex one more time. I encourage you to watch that interview with Tony Robbins. If you feel into it and you feel his sadness, you look at his face, you hear his words. He's saying, I feel flat. I'm only working like this because I don't know what else to do with myself. That's not going to get better if he doesn't do something differently. He's a smart guy. He's going to be okay. But it's not about smart. It's not about smart. And actually, Tony Robbins said, right? Like, you're all in your head, there's no heart. We do different work, but I'm telling you that it is not your hormones or your old or mindset. You've got that. It is working with your nervous system, creating new patterns in your identity, in your body, in your behaviors, in the way that you relate to life in this second era of your life. And if you don't know me, I got to this point, became very successful by the time I was 40. It was all through hustle until my body broke down and couldn't anymore. And then I had to go in the dark looking for solutions, kept outsourcing, thinking it was mindset. I hired a really nice guy, push coach. I hired an accountability coach. I spent so much freaking money. I spent so much freaking money on like coaches and things trying to like get the strategy, get this, get that, and and it wasn't that. I took a step back and finally discovered, after hundreds of thousands of dollars, that I was wired for rushing and I was wired for proving and I was wired for validation. And I had to rewire my nervous system for peace, for calm. And my behaviors and your behaviors and who you're being and how you're showing up in the world need refinement. You don't have to burn it all down. This is the work for you. I hope that this has been useful, insightful. You are not alone. This is a pattern that I see over and over and over again. And because social media is full of people's highlight reels, they're not talking about this. You only see super happy people that are thriving and living their best life. But the truth is that it looks great on paper and you don't actually know what's going on inside. This work, just like Alex, brilliant guy, could not see his own patterns and needed an outside person. Yes, it was Tony Robbins, but this is the work that I do. This is the work that I do. As I was watching the Tony Robbins and Alex podcast interview, I was coaching Alex in my mind and in my heart before Tony Robbins. I could see the patterns. I could see what needed to change, and I could add depth to that. But this work, yes, of course, you could do it alone. You've gotten here alone, but it's so much more enjoyable when you are being supported. When you have a trusted, wise, experienced guide. And that's why I created the reclamation. The reclamation is a 6-month mastermind. Why is my dog growling? The reclamation is a 6-month mastermind. So you can reclaim your light, that inner light. Every time I talk to women, they're talking about feeling like their light has been dimmed. Your voice. Corey, stop. Come here, baby. Your voice. What do you actually want? What do you actually want to build now? How do you want to live the last few decades of your life? Your voice is an expression of what's inside you and your personal power in your relationships and how you show up in the world. I was part of this mastermind one time that was basically 6 months, and we got to show up and we just asked the coach, these questions. Well, that wasn't for me because there was no structure. And I trust myself. I just want to have sometimes a guide to provide certain frameworks and to do coaching. And so while that was useful for many, it wasn't for me. And what I'm doing in the reclamation is giving you frameworks around the nervous system, identity repatterning, so that you tap into your own wisdom. The women that I guide and that I work with, they're already freaking successful, wise, capable. I just have to ask the right questions for them, for you to access the wisdom and the power. And then it comes out. It's through you. It's not me. But we need frameworks for that. We're talking about nervous system repatterning, identity repatterning. So we meet 3 times a month. You get to learn the frameworks, you get to be coached, you get to connect with other women. We also are going to have a Telegram for breakthroughs and community. And then you get to go out. Hold on a second. I set a timer on my phone for not to allow, I'm going live on Instagram so that I don't overspend time on social media. Anyway, it just went off. You come to the calls once a week for three weeks, and then you have time for integration. And then you go get to live your life in the laboratory of life. And then you come back, you share your breakthroughs, we workshop. And by the end of 6 months, you're you, but more you. Remember, you're not trying to throw out the baby with the bathwater. You're also not trying to go back to who you were when you were 14. You're freaking 40 something, 50 something. You're this wise, beautiful being. You get to step into that, into the wisdom era, not go back to the past. So when I hear people say that, like, I just, be who I was when I was before I got hurt. It's like, no, you got the wisdom now. You got the wisdom. Let's alchemize that wisdom, turn the shit into gold. That's what we're doing, and we get to do it together for 6 months. We start on February 10th. I will post the link below. It is a 6 month journey of evolution. We get to do life together. And I've heard people say this, but I'm keeping this experience intimate up to 10 to 12 women max because we really are doing life together. The women that I work with tend to stay with me, not because they need me, not because of dependence, because we both keep growing and because you want to be supported. But this would be a 6 month commitment. I'll put the details in the chat below. I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope you had some insight. And that's it. Stay safe, stay warm, and also feel free to message me. We can have a conversation about this. I'll put the details below about the Reclamation Mastermind. We begin February 10th, but I'm also open to having a discussion if this is the right work for you. All right. Have a beautiful day, everyone. Bye-bye.